So we're building up to the Liverpool International Music Festival. LIMF 2018 is coming and it's going to close in spectacular fashion. Sunday 22nd of July in Sefton Park. Hacienda Classical live on stage. It's only a £5 to get into this gig. And with me now, one of the guys behind this. And behind the original club, we got a legend. We got from New Order, Joy Division, Peter Hook. How are we, mate?
I'm all right. I prefer living legend.
Living legend.
Just to make sure that people know you're still living, you see. And amazing that you lived through it, yes.
Well, let's go back to the days of Hacienda, when you certainly did live through it. What was it like for anyone that doesn't know about that club? Just kind of fill us in on what it was like.
It was opened in 1981 because people like us had nowhere to go. It was as simple as that. It was punk, post-punk, very early on. Your clubs in Manchester and probably in Liverpool were still pretty square. They didn't know what to do with this new youth culture. And with it came post-punk music, which was electronic, New Order, etc., Orchestra Manoeuvres in the Dark, Human League, and it started its own little movement. That lasted, actually. It was a very popular gig venue, the Hacienda, for about 5 or 6 years. And then we had Acid House, which New Order were introduced to in Ibiza when we were recording there, which wasn't a very successful recording trip, but certainly taught us how to party, as if we didn't know already. We brought it back with the Happy Mondays to Manchester, and I think that musically the rest of it is history, because I think I can safely say that most music these days is derivative of that Chicago, Detroit house that came through the Hacienda and now infects the world. The club was notorious for many reasons. We had our own gang problems. When you couldn't get help, we sort of shouldered it alone. New Order and Joy Division still hold the accolade for entertaining a whole city at their own expense for 16 years. I don't think anybody's done that in Liverpool, have they?
No, I don't think so.
Right, well, if they want to start, they can take our crown. But yeah, the Hacienda was a notorious club, musically, culturally, in every way you can think of. I mean, it spread out, and I don't think that I'm stepping on anyone's toes by saying it inspired Cream. It inspired Ministry of Sound. It was the biggest super club in Europe in its time, yes.
Did you know back then that something new was kind of bubbling or erupting in terms of dance music and this EDM craze, which is everywhere now and kind of formed its own genres as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, you see, is that at the Hacienda, through Rob Gretton, who was New Order's manager, and Mike Pickering, who was the booker for the Hacienda, we'd been celebrating dance music from Chicago and Detroit since 1983. So it was really unsung. You know, it influenced a hell of a lot of people. But it was unsung as a genre. We never stopped supporting it, and really it just got swept up and included in the Acid House explosion that came in 86, 87. Acid House was different because the thing I liked about Acid House was that when all the cheap Japanese instruments came, it meant that everybody had access to musical instruments. Whereas before, when we started in post-punk, you had to be very well off, and it was very middle class and a bit boring for that. So the thing is that erupted, and it gave freedom to everybody to make records. You know, a guy called Gerald, 808 State, these are people that seized these instruments because they finally became affordable, and that gave it a whole edge that it was lacking before. So, I mean, the Hacienda was a lot of cultural explosions right the way through, and that's not including Manchester, etc., etc.
It was all under one roof until 1988.
Yes.
1998.
1997. Sadly, it was overtaken, shall we say, by the gangs and the drugs. And to be honest with you, there's only so long that you can, you know, hide and look after people under those circumstances. And, you know, the great thing about the classical now is that we get to celebrate the music. A lot of the songs that we're celebrating have never been performed. And I think that that's the secret to me, is that people see these songs performed with the orchestra, which is a wonderful spectacle. We've got 3 great singers, Yvonne Shelton, we've got DJ Ray, and Melanie Williams, who's very famous for Sub Sub. So they are fantastic, you know, and it really brings the whole genre to life. And we've got all those old duffers getting out there, you know, for our once every 6 month blowout. And it's wonderful because it attracts a young audience who are just getting into the music. The music will always be there. It's great to me that a lot of youngsters now start looking for the origins of these songs that they love, and that's making the whole thing go circular.
It must be good for you to see that name Hacienda, you know, still heard, and as you say, new generations kind of getting into that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, because when the Hacienda went, I was absolutely sick of it. There was only me, Tony Wilson and Rob Gretton left involved in the Hacienda. The rest of the group, New Order, had gone years before. And I didn't really feel any warmth towards it. It was that thing about remembering the good times is easy. At the Hacienda, we hadn't had any good times for a long, long time. Now, I can remember it much easier, because to watch something that's appreciated as much as this in the atmosphere that we have now is fantastic. So you hark back to the good times. People like Tony Wilson, who worked for Granada, although he wasn't very popular in Liverpool, I know that, for many reasons. He was a visionary in what he wanted to do. It was very altruistic what he wanted to do, and very simple and naive. And it didn't really work, but none of us were any good with money. You know, I mean, it just slipped through our fingers like sand. But saying that, as Rob Gretton said to me many times whenever I had to go at him for being skint, you know, you can't buy a history like this. And it was, you know, as a musician myself, who started with the Sex Pistols' first gig in Manchester, you become part of a legend, part of a myth, and you see these movements go through. And this is a celebration of all those movements, because without punk, we wouldn't have had Joy Division. Without Joy Division, we wouldn't have had New Order. New Order, we wouldn't have had the Hacienda, Acid House. You wouldn't have had all these things that are so important to the north of England, all the north of England, you know. So I mean, it is wonderful to be able to dig in, enjoy ourselves for once, and have a great time doing what we love, which is playing music and making people part of a great time.
Sefton Park, Sunday 22nd of July. We're going to be closing Lymph in style. What can we expect? If you're coming to Lymph that day, what can people expect from Hacienda Classical?
Well, the music is performed very passionately, very enthusiastically. It's a wonderful marriage of dance beats with a live orchestra and live vocals. Graham Park is a world-famous DJ. He's been #1 DJ in England 10, 15 times. Mike Pickering, who was the booker at the Hacienda, very famous DJ. They mix over the top of it. It's like a very, very successful recipe. You know, listening to the ingredients on their own, you're thinking, oh my God, how are you going to get those together? But it really does work. And everybody I've seen, I've never had one complaint, apart from maybe people saying to me it wasn't on long enough. So that's the kind of complaint I like. But no, it's wonderful. I really enjoy it, and I must admit that if I'm going to be honest, I was its biggest skeptic when we started, but I've been delighted to be proved wrong, and we have a great time doing it.
What songs can we hear, Peter? Just give us three tracks, three of your favourite tracks that we hear in there.
Well, this year, Sub Ain't No Love, Ain't No Use, which is fantastic. If you're going to push me on the others, my God, I've got 3 sets going round in my brain where we're all over the place. You know, it really is the DJ's choice. And what I find, even as a DJ myself, which is absolutely amazing, is that when I look at the titles, I don't know the song, but when I hear it, and oh my God, there's some spine-chilling moments when the roof, as they say, really comes off. And if anybody is unhappy with it, come and see me afterwards. I'll be delighted to put you straight.
Well, listen, we can't wait to see it. Thanks so much for having us. Peter Hook, Hacienda Classical, Sunday 22nd of July, taking over Sefton Park for Lymph 2018. Get your tickets now. They're just £5 in advance on lymphfestival.com. Thanks, Peter.
You're welcome.